lots of changes just around the world, just about with everything to do with media, don't you think so? And some aspects, we've been lots of discussion around the role of newspapers and maybe whether they're suffering as people move towards online. Other discussions around whether online's really growing in terms of advertising, and if it doesn't, will it really work? Lots of discussion around that now and in the future. Another take on it, looking at magazines or publishing specifically, as Jonathan Harris. He's the CEO of Thought 24. Jonathan, great of you to join us, man.
Pleasure being here.
Taking you away from your cappuccinos. My apologies for that.
It's okay.
But anyway, there's another different sort of cup to worry about, which is just whether you can have the cup of gold in terms of magazines, right? What are your thoughts, just in terms of the magazine industry in South Africa? Just how healthy is it?
It is healthier than one would have thought, looking at 2010. A couple of years ago, I mean, people were expecting a downturn in the economy. The economy did turn down, but magazines survived. And if you look at the stock of magazines over the last 12 months, a lot of them have actually seen circulation growth. The last ABC figures showed the magazines that still lead the market are still leading the market. They're still here. They're still growing. And it's been a very robust year for magazines. Advertising revenue, on the flip side, has actually come down. But
isn't that something to flag to say problems in the future?
It is. It depends whether you think it's systemic and whether you think magazines have lost the relevance that they held for a long time. And the answer to that is no. They haven't lost the relevance as a media platform, as an advertising platform. They're still incredibly relevant. The downturn was in line with the rest of the economy. As the economy tightens, people pull back on spend. And those magazines that have focused on delivering value to advertisers are managing to offset a lot of that through different types of execution.
I picked up some information last week sometime about the fact that suggestions that there's been about 40 new titles in the last year in South Africa alone. But conversely, there's been 40 titles that have either shut down or merged with others. So there's an incredible amount of fluidity. The market itself hasn't really grown, but there's changes every single day. How do you analyze that?
That's not a new phenomenon. If you look over the last 10 years, magazines come and go. I mean, it's a hugely dynamic market. It's a relatively easy market to get into, so you find that a lot of entrepreneurs that can find the capital and have a passion for magazines, have a passion for readers, can start magazines. There is still shelf space available, so they can get those magazines on shelf, and those that get traction and succeed stick around. Unfortunately, the flip side is that 90% of all magazines fail. So a lot of those
90% of all
magazines that launch globally fail.
Okay, so to the listeners, any thoughts on it? Dump those thoughts. I mean, that's what you're saying. To a degree, right?
It is. It's a very, as a kind of a venture capital business, a very, very tough business to get into. But the 10% of